I mean, basically, like, I don't think it's necessarily...
Let's see if I can remember. Okay.
I feel like you could argue that, no, this is not the biggest game that they have made in terms of area or space.
Yeah, okay. And there's another thing that you really have to consider, and that's when we say they, who are we talking about?
Right.
It's
Sure.
like, are we talking about Square in general, or are we talking about, like... Are we talking
Final
about
Fantasy games,
the Final Fantasy
or-
development, or are we talking about, like, the Japanese Square? Because, I mean, since they got, what is it, Eidos and all that, they got all those extra properties.
Sure.
They added a whole different
I
repertoire
was
of games.
mostly just thinking of the Final Fantasy games. Like, in a lot of ways, I would say...
What was the other game company that they got that... Or was it just Eidos that I'm thinking of?
I have no idea.
It is Eidos, because they're the ones that have Deus Ex, I think.
Sure.
Along with Tomb Raider.
Oh, yeah, because there was that thing in the latest Deus Ex games about, like, Final Fantasy 35 or whatever.
Yeah,
poster.
I think, it's pretty great. Which is one of those things, it's like, because they were, I mean, what was the deal? Like, if this game flopped, that was going to be the last one that they made?
Yeah, or they would kind of really step back on investing a lot of time and money in the Final Fantasy franchise.
Yeah. I mean,
But, I mean, I guess there's this article that I read that's called, or it was originally, like, put on as a talk at one of the kind of
crap.
GDCs that was just kind of like... it was called, like, Towards a Cutie Aesthetic. That was
What?
kind of talking about realism and kind of what that means. And if you're talking about, like, say, you know, Gears of War
shit.
or Call of Duty or whatever, these are games that are kind of very realistic in their modeling and in their kind of branding, and in their animations and so forth and so on. But then...
Okay, so this presents a problem, because...
Huh. Is it
he's
strong again?
He's weak to swords, but he's strong against
Fire.
elemental fire. So,
Okay.
Runesaber, I guess.
Sure.
We'll go with right now. And he's also like one of the stronger enemies in this situation, so I really want to take him down.
Oh, and he's like that
yeah.
dude who killed me in the mines that
Yes.
one time. And then it kind of talks about, like, you know, what is realistic in these games is always kind of, you know, it's never really, like, realistic. It's realistic according to some standards. Like, for example, you know, in a first-person shooter game, you have ammo pickups, and ammo pickups are still just, like, big glowing things on the floor that shoot into your body.
Yeah.
And so that's not realistic, but it's a mechanical affordance.
Ooh.
And so in this too, like, there are plenty of aspects of this game that are realistic, but there are just as many that are weird mechanical affordances.
Yeah.
And so, like, in that sense, because realism never really means realism. Realism means, like, it's realism in these aspects that we've decided are important.
Yeah.
Which is usually...
And then they always want to bring it back into wow, it says I did that well? I didn't.
I mean, I feel like those scores are basically completely arbitrary, or, you know, calculated using metrics that are not really coherent.
Yeah, I think it's like how much you use a certain thing.
Right.
Not so much like how much damage you didn't take, but how much you do certain things.
Right.
Though I've gotten like it is like I feel like it is a thing, like it's certain things, certain actions will cause it to go up. So, but it's certain actions that when you use tend to make you do better when you try to use them right. Because I've tended toward getting better scores overall, and generally being better. But when it comes to realism in games, I feel like they, especially when they're trying to, because they're almost trying to make a Grand Theft Auto type game here. Or at least, you know, just general...
In the sense of, like...
It's like the Grand Theft Auto type format.
What does that mean, though?
Essentially, like... I just want to show you what's down here.
Okay.
Like, the Grand Theft Auto format where it's, like, it's kind of an open world where the Grand Theft Auto or even, almost MMO... like format where it's kind of an open world. You go around talking to random people and you have quests.
What are those? What are the symbols on that door?
Magical symbols.
Sure. Are they the symbols of other weapons, but maybe not.
I don't know. Like, which symbols are you talking about? The ones that are on the outside of the thing?
The ones on the outside.
They look almost like alchemical symbols, like the base alchemical symbols.
Right. I was going to say, like, astrological symbols, but they're basically the same thing as alchemical symbols.
Yeah, I guess. This part is kind of tough, actually. Oh god, I hate these guys.
Mind flayers, but not illithids, because that's a copyrighted term from
What?
Wizards of the Coast.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
And I mean, much in the same way as I believe I mentioned earlier, with like a Coerls. Like, a lot of Final Fantasy mainstays were originally Dungeons and Dragons mainstays.
What was the Curl original?
I mean, it was a Coerl.
Really?
Well, it's called Displacer Beast now in D&D.
Oh.
But because originally it was from A.E. Van Vogt's sci-fi writing. It was an alien monster on a different planet that they found, which I've already talked about.
I'm sorry about the scanning, by the way. I mean, I'm not that
yeah,
sorry.
I mean, it's very weird to me
remember.
that takes time. Because
they give me a flame sword and an ice spear, and neither of those are actually good against the...
I mean, the flame sword looks like it would be okay.
Oh, wait, did you ever get the... Damn. Wait, no, that's the wrong menu. So there's a lightning spear, too.
I see.
Which may have been better.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. So we'll do that. We'll go with that.
But I mean, I guess that's kind of the thing I'm fundamentally kind of getting opposed to in games is like, in the artistic sense of kind of realism versus abstraction, I am definitely kind of heading towards, kind of abstraction.
Yeah.
Because I feel like realism doesn't get you anything in the same way that, like, say, the kind of recent kind of, what was that? There was all those Disney movies that are 3D, but then there was also that one other one that was like, the one about the Day of the Dead.
Book of the Dead? Or Book of Life.
Sure, it's possible.
That's what it's called, yeah.
And the thing with that is that, like, they explicitly were like, we want to make a 3D film that actually looks as good as the drafts are, as the storyboards are.
Yeah.
Like, you can look at the storyboards for Frozen or Brave, and they're these really interesting, like, dynamic shots with lots of detail in the background and, like, lots of things happening, and then you, like, look at the actual, like, movie, and it's like, oh, these people are, like, in a big environment box with nothing in it. Because the 3D kind of stuff has been very simplified, whereas and it's kind of lost a lot of the stylization that was in the actual art.
Fair enough.
And so I kind of feel like it's kind of the same thing going on here, like or like the thing with Final Fantasy XIV, where Final Fantasy XIV kind of infamously opened.
Was bad?
Yes, it opened and was incredibly terrible, and the development team, like during the development of 15, the people were like,
all right, I'm taking the easy way out of these. Let's get them all.
hitting them, casting spells on them. Yes, okay.
That's not actually. I didn't. I wanted to cancel out of it, and then cancel is also the attack button. So damn it.
I mean, it worked.
In a sense, I wanted to move it over so that I would also hit him.
And so like it was kind of they
Wow,
made
I'm doing
the game,
a crap ton of damage to him.
They made the game, and they were kind of very big on talking about, like, here's us on vacation looking at rocks.
We're not talking about Final Fantasy XIV anymore.
Well, Final Fantasy XIV they were kind of doing the same thing.
They were on vacation in 14?
Looking at rocks, yes.
What, really?
Yeah, and then, like...
What?
There was this...
That isn't... What? We're talking about the online game, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Then there was a lot of effort that they put into kind of making things look realistic. And there was basically one person there who was like, this is a bad idea, this game is a mess, it is going to be performed very poorly. And then the rest of the team was like, nah, it'll be fine. And then they released it and it performed poorly. And they went to that one guy and was like, you're now the person in charge because you're the only person who saw this coming.
And that guy said, shit.
And that guy was responsible for the reboot for the Realm Reborn.
Oh, okay. Well,
which is the
he said
version,
shit and well, let
which
me
is
get
the
down
version
to
that is
roll up my
actually
sleeves.
good. Yes, or better.
All right, so I guess we'll.
I mean, is this an actually important cutscene we should shut up for?
I don't remember. Let's assume. I don't think it is.
Okay.
I mean, it's shiny.
I guess that's a bow?
It's like
a partisan? It's like a dual partisan? It's a botleth?
Sure. It's called like the. It's called a sword or something.
Yep, that's what a sword looks like.
Let's see. All right.
And so that was the guy responsible for Realm Reborn, and basically he did this thing that he's kind of like during his presentation on like why they needed to deal with the problem that was this fixation with graphical fidelity. Is he's like, here is this. You have more headaches about Titan, I bet.
Noct, you okay? What did I... Where was that?
What is it?
A hole in the ground. Something burning. The meteor?
You saw the Disc of Kothis.
Which we still don't know what it is.
Let's make our way back to Lestalem.
Yeah, gotta
and so he had this presentation where he's like, here is a flower pot. And this flower pot is in the city, and this flower pot has 20,000 polygons in it and takes just as much computational process to render as it takes to render a player model. And well, this is probably, the most detailed and realistic, flower pot model in the game. This kind of overuse of graphical detail means that areas cannot have a lot of different things in them, so they end up being very sparse. It means there's a very limited amount of content that's been made, so it's very kind of repetitive. Just all because fundamentally these people have put a lot of work into making a few extremely high quality assets.
Yeah.
When that effort would be much better spent making more varied, lower quality things.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like that same issue is kind of at play here, where a lot of effort has been invested in relatively few extremely detailed and complex things.
Yeah.
When it would be a lot better if you had a lot more things that were maybe each, much simpler.
Although I will argue the point of if you're gonna call out them having problems with like polygon tearing or like clipping through terrain and stuff, if you're gonna make a bigger area, you're gonna have even more of that problem because you're gonna tend to you're gonna go for space. You're not gonna take as much. You're not gonna go for as much detail, and you're not gonna test for as much.
Clipping would be less of an issue if all of the environments and all of the players weren't photorealistic. Like, it's one thing if you have like a blocky, PlayStation 1 cloud style thing with giant conjoined hands shoving their fists through a wall. Like, then it's like, okay, yeah, whatever, these are just polygon models. But when it's like, oh, I'm not actually sure, if you can look at a screenshot of the game and be like, oh, I'm not actually sure if this is a screenshot or a photograph. And then it's just like, oh, and here's this person who has like their hand clipping through someone's head. It's like, oh, that's kind of bad. It's
like I was watching Star Wars Episode 1 again. Don't ask questions. I noticed actually several spots where there was just really heavy duty obvious clipping, like God, what's that flying? I can't remember the flying alien's name. The one that keeps the slaves, Watto, I think.
Sebulba?
No. He's one of the racers.
Sure. Okay.
Watto, I think it's Watto. It's made the first one or the second one. I think it's the first one. His like ass clips through his pants at one point, which I'm like, what?
Yeah, I remember.
I think around the time when he's giving up.
There was this advertisement for one of the Riddick movies, I think.
Oh yeah.
That had like, it was the scene was supposed to be, I think, Riddick kind of sliding under a huge monster with the sword in his hand and like cutting it in half. But like his hand and arm clip entirely inside the monster at some point. It was really hard to tell what was actually going on. And it was like, if this wasn't... Because the thing is, I feel like a lot of like rigid body stuff is very easy to do compared to soft body stuff. In terms of like the rendering process. Because soft body stuff is like, hair, cloth, kind of squishy materials that kind of compress and stretch.
Yeah.
That's a lot more... To actually model those, it is super, super difficult. Like, there's a lot of stuff about kind of modeling the hair in Tangled.
Also the hair in Brave. There was a big thing about that because it's like it's
very curly and bushy.
Yeah, and they spent a lot of time getting that to work out. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
They're like little development things of like someone kind of having like this huge like the hair physics ropes. And then just something happening, and then just kind of flying entirely all over the scene wildly because some physical constant was like 0.2 off.
Well, that's how it's done, I guess.
Yeah, and so it's just kind of like
cutscene, I think.
Oh yeah, an important cutscene, more headache cutscenes.
A lot of Harry Potter going on right now. Look, I don't know what goes on after this, so I can't even.
I mean, I'm willing to bet you go and get Titan.
Yeah.
He'll be fine, don't worry. But we ought to take a closer look at this so-called disc.
So-called disc?
Well, I called it a disc. It was called
it seems like everyone is calling it a disc. Why?
Let's see what we can glean of Nox's condition.
All right, I want to finish this before we cut the episode.
Sure.
It's taking a lot longer than I thought. This is going to be a long episode, like really long. Or maybe we'll cut this into 2 parts. Fuck it, I don't know.
Right. I mean, we only started at like 12 minutes, right? So.
Well, we started at like 17 or something. But we're at an hour recording at this point, so
sure.
We've got about 43.
Right. I mean, if we wait for another 15 minutes, then we can just cut it cleanly into 2 at some point, quietly.
Not tell anyone about it.
Quietly now.
Yeah.
But this would be in the second half.
No one will know. No one will know.
Yes. And so it's
and everyone will be none the wiser.
Coincidence. I'm not so sure it is.
He's so sassy.
And like
with his hair doing that thing that it does.
Like this one. From the deep, the Archean calls. Yet on deaf ears, the god's tongue falls. The king made to kneel in pain, he crawls.
So, how do we keep him on his feet?
You need only heed the call. Visit the Archean and hear his plea. I can take you.
We in?
I don't know. We take a ride?
Look at that! Look at that!
Fair enough. Let's
Look
do
at the
this.
guy clipping the Gladiol's shoulder.
Great.
I do not want to stand on ceremony, but such an occasion calls for an introduction. Please call me Arden. Come with me to the car park.
And so it's kind of, and so it's kind of like you have that kind of issue, and then you have the issue where none of them recognizes
but she's never let me
spoilers. But I guess I'm just gonna say it because it tells you if you watch the movie. But he's like the Chancellor of Niflheim.
No, he's not the.
You're like the Vice Chancellor, the Deputy. He's someone very high up in, like, he's the Minister.
I don't know.
It's been a long
he's an
time.
Advisor or something.
But he's very high up in the government of Niflheim. And none of them recognize him.
I'm beginning to
not
wonder.
Your bodyguard, not your tutor.
Yeah.
Noctis, who is ostensibly the prince and should maybe know some stuff about politics. Prompto, I guess I can.
Yeah, but let's not say who in politics should know some things about politics because.
And you were the one who said we should not talk about politics. It's just okay. He's walking over there. I mean, like basically, of the 3 of them,
all set.
Or of the 4 of them, 3 of them have reasonable reasons to know who he is, and yet none of them do. And it's just like we have this realism compared to like the complete, bonkers video game-ness of the plot.
It is it's
fine by me.
it's anime.
You drive your car,
Yeah.
I drive mine.
It's convoluted. It's ridiculous.
Right, like-
this guy, if he is a chancellor, is horrible at his job.
Right.
Look at him. He's not. He's in the middle of a completely different country. Just like
I mean, to be fair, he's in the middle of a completely different country that he just conquered.
but he's on his own, just
Right.
waltzing around. I mean, he's
Yeah,
just-
it's like a
he's a man of no consequence.
right.
Like,
Austin Walker was actually talking about this, and he's like, "Why is he here? Why did he join your party as a guest?" Which apparently he does.
Yeah,
like, slightly later on.
it's probably very.
And he's like, and then he's like, okay, I know why he does that, and that's because that's what happens in anime. But
yeah,
that it's not that it doesn't make sense. And so
Yeah.
it's just kind of like that kind of realism versus that kind of bizarre fantasy, I find really weird. But yes, basically, it's not great.
It's strange and I don't know. I'm just trying not to get too like critical of it, despite the fact that they're going for the realism
Sure.
aspect of it.
I guess the thing is like, the more I've gotten into actually doing game design myself, the more I find myself engaging with games, not on the level of like, oh, this is a game that I'm playing and fun, and more on this level of like dissecting them to pull apart parts and be like, this thing is very interesting, this thing I don't think is well executed, I think this is very interesting, but contrasts weirdly with this other thing.
Yeah.
Like, I think this compares.
Or like, this is great, but it doesn't really fit in this spot.
Yeah, and so like less, and so I guess certainly critical, but also just kind of like dissecting its game design to seeing how it's put together and then what my thoughts are on that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, I kind of feel like there's game criticism exists in this weird
Just to be
place
clear, this isn't a race, it is a chase. You're not to pass
where
me. Lose sight
a
of me
lot of
and
people
you'll
are
lose
not
your way.
encouraged.
And
Like, a
you'll
lot of people are
get
just like, oh, you can't
an
criticize this
accident
thing,
will
or
spoil
else.
the trip.
All right.
There's a lot of people who are basically going,
As you will.
if you criticize this game, you're saying it's bad, and people who like it are bad.
Oh yeah.
Whereas like, it's everything
Whoa,
is
Jesus.
everything is
And then
flawed, but
Coincidence, huh?
it's important to
Way
talk
too
about those
convenient
flaws
to
and
be a
kind of think about how they're put together
I
and how they're
reckon
not.
he's following us
Yeah.
around.
I do love that the game is going to end.
The
if
game is
question
going to
bothers me deeply.
end.
As does his origin.
If I
It's hard for me to picture
don't
that
keep up.
guy in the Empire.
But it's even
and I understand it.
harder
It
to
feels
imagine
almost
him
like
as a
games themselves are political, because I
Sure.
hear that like attacking, it's like
not rely
taking an opposing
But
position
he may be our only
in
way into the Disc of Kothis.
politics actually
What's his
has the
Highness's
same effect on the
opinion of
brain
this,
as like
Martin?
it
really have
activates like the same emotional responses as like
to me.
I don't
Hit the nail
remember.
on the head
I'm
right there.
paraphrasing and
Well,
poorly,
that's
so
why
I
we
can't.
came up with a
Sure.
plan.
I don't know. And I read it. Let's be fair, I read it on the internet. I don't know. It seems reasonable to me that like it actually like political attacks actually feel like an attack on your person.
Knocked.
Sure.
Like I think it was like
Well, I mean, not just that.
religious
Like,
or
I
something.
think
Becoming
anything
Wouldn't want to
anybody
have one behind
finds
the
an
wheel.
emotional attachment
Stop
to,
if you need to,
you know?
alright?
Yeah.
Like, and anything people kind of have invested into themselves. Like, it's like, I'm the kind of person who likes this kind of game.
Yeah.
Then might
So,
take
Haven's
someone being like,
along
oh,
the way.
actually, I don't like
Oh,
this part of the
somebody
game.
wants to
Being
camp.
like, as a personal
Somebody
attack on
else
them.
wants a proper
Yeah.
Or like,
Nice.
Or it's like when I say that
It's bad for your
I
back.
can't,
Can
I
we
like
at
I
least
don't
make
play
a
first person
caravan?
shooters. People are like, what? Are you
Don't
not
get why you like
good at them? Well, I'm
camping
not
so
like
much.
I'm not good at them, and
Under
they
the
make me
stars and one with
violently ill.
nature. What's the
It's like
Wild, there are no rules to
for
follow.
I'm not good at them
Checkout time.
for that reason.
Right, and so it's just kind of like-
no checkout time.
with a lot of game stuff, I feel like criticism kind of gets read in this weirdly hostile way, even when it's just kind of like, I want to talk about mechanics that work and don't work, and the way that these themes kind of interlace with the mechanics and all this other stuff that necessarily involves saying certain things work well or do not work well.
Okay.
I'm afraid I've never
yeah,
really
yeah.
been
But that being said, I could maybe understand that some people might be like, oh, actually, I don't want to listen to like 80 hours of games criticism about this thing I want to enjoy.
Yeah, it's like
But-
I mean I think I've said this before. And like despite its shortcomings, I do like this game a lot,
Right.
and I have played the crap out of it. And this is, I mean, technically I've played through it twice, and I don't do that with games. Okay,
Sure.
not played through it twice. Played through it up to
Up
this
to
point twice.
Save game.
Yes.
Now this
Why not?
feels
I
like a
mean,
road trip.
really when it comes down to it.
Go figure.
Right. I mean, it was
See,
actually
even
kind of-
even the apparent antagonist is like, "Hey, road trip, yeah."
yeah. Although it is like, I mean, I still maintain that the distinction between a road trip and between just driving is that a road trip is necessarily linear and does not involve any backtracking.
It is yours truly.
You know, because like a road trip is to a place through locations. If you're driving to one place and then back, then you're not on a road trip, really.
For His Highness's collection.
I mean, unless you're on a road trip there and then a road trip back. But like driving through a city is not a road trip. Even
Yeah.
if it's a long
Well, I mean, like
drive.
driving to a place, then driving from that place to other places, then driving back home, but like several, days passing between
Right.
the there and home.
There's, I would say, basically, there's an implication of linearity.
Yeah, Beast Whistle. Yeah, all right. Take it. Summon some enemies. All right. Okay, so this is. I think we're gonna cut the episode off here because this is where I am.
Sure.
So we'll just load up that save and go from there. And you may notice a stark
Right, 'cause
difference
he's
in health and stats
Level
because
40, because he's been doing all the side quests.
yeah. So I'm pretty high level at that point. So anyway, we'll cut there and we'll catch you in a little bit.
Yep, see you then.